All right. Well, it's happened finally. I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Can't say I ever expected it, but here we are. First of all, thank you to everyone who subscribed. It's a little surreal, to be honest. I've been doing the YouTube thing now for like 2 years, I guess. Evolving Skies was when I really started pushing into it. Did some really terrible content on Untap. Uh, Decided that wasn't very good, and immediately pivoted over to in real person testing with some of my friends, some local players. I think it's been a lot better. I mean, it's also nice to just hang out with them every Friday at my place. And so, yeah, first of all, thank you to my friends who've been joining me every Friday, especially to Ryan, to Christian, to Jesse, to Mariano. If you've been over here, you know, Colin again, you too. Everyone who's dropped by, Santiago. There's so many people who've come by, who've played some games, and just had some fun on stream. We've tested all sorts of things. You know, one of the jokes we like to make is that we're already great at the decks before the set releases because we've already been testing it for 3 months, or in the case of post rotation for 4 months. And the fact is, we're probably all fairly average players, but um, it's nice to just hang out with friends and to have some fun with the sets and to kind of learn how things work before they're out. Like that's half the joy of the new cards, right? You get to play around with stuff. But yeah, I'm super excited to be able to do a little Q&A for everyone. Thank you everyone for giving me some questions on Twitter and on Discord. Uh, with that, let's jump into some of these questions. The first question, I threw a couple in myself just because I feel like somebody should have asked them and nobody did. Maybe because they're too obvious they didn't, but let's hit them anyway. What's your favorite Pokemon? So obviously the Oddish line is pretty important to my channel and to my website, but it also happens to be fairly important to my favorite Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon is Blossom. I love Gen 2. I know it's not a popular opinion anymore to love Gen 2 or to love the remix of Gen 2 from Gen 4. But I really do love Gen 2. I think if I got some game with Johto and it was just Johto and it was Johto like reimagined in the same way that we've gotten Paldea, right? Where we have this big expansive open world and we get to see all these cities and towns and stuff and just enjoy them. I could really see that being just like the best game I've ever played, Pokemon or not. I enjoyed the crap out of Scarlet and Violet. I know that's kind of a divisive thing too. It's like, oh, it's too buggy. It's like, even with the bugs, it was really, really fun. I had the game crash on me several times, and you know what? I still enjoyed the crap out of it. Scarlet and Violet were just super super fun, and I'm looking forward to the DLC. But yes, Johto, favorite region, Blossom, favorite Pokemon, and it's as for why I couldn't really tell you. I don't even really like Vileplume, but I love Blossom. It's just if I had to pick a reason, what might be is one of the very first movies I saw for the Pokemon franchise has the whole Blossom dancing scene in the opening, and that just really sticks with me. And I was a kid at the time, and even now, like I'm older, obviously, and it's still the Blossom. It's too cute, and Pokemon's awesome. So if you were a trainer in the Pokemon world, what would your team look like? I am not a min maxer. I'm not going to obviously have the most meta team or whatever, but I have some Pokemon that I like on the team, and that's cool. Blossom obviously has to go on there. Favorite Pokemon has to be on there. Magnezone is on there just because it's amazing. It's also an evolution of one of my other favorite Pokemon, Magneton. Um, Not as fond of Magnezone, but yeah, fully evolved, right? Cramorant, another one of my favorites. Torkoal, another one of my favorites. And then both two evolutions. I know that's cheating to have two evolutions in a team, but I have Umbreon and Sylveon both. They're awesome. I love both of them. Nothing quite like Flesh Ribbons, right, Sylveon? First question from the general populace. What's your favorite deck of all time for any format, standard, expanded, or alternate formats? My favorite deck. Okay, so in standard, I'm gonna have a big recency bias for standard. So I'm just gonna say like the top three for the decks more recently. So from Lost Thunder onward, because that's really where I've been saturated in the more competitive end of Pokemon. I would say overall, I think I have to give it to Blacephalon GX. but prior to the release of Welder. I did not like how the deck changed when Welder became part of it. It didn't feel as good to me. I liked the pre-Welder version of Bliss F1, and then I really hated the post-rotation version of it from Worlds. Ugh, I hated that deck. It's very not a fun deck to me. I don't know, can't quite communicate what exactly it was that changed about the deck for me, but I just did not like it anymore. It just felt foreign. It felt wrong. So I think a couple of the other runners up would be Gardevoir and Sylveon GX. I loved that deck. I loved that big tanky strategy that Guardian had. Um, I do have to say that I really, really hated Zacian V when it came out. Not just because it was the best partner for Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, which was cancerous for the trading card game, but also just because it ended the deck that I really enjoyed playing. It was the one tag team that I thought, hey, this isn't too bad. And then and everybody who's ever interacted with me anywhere knows I absolutely detest the whole tag team era. Uh, just awful. But let's hit up the other ones too. Expanded format. I really loved Turbo Zacian. Ironically, Turbo Zacian. I really enjoyed it for a while when it was popular or decent, at least in expanded. Uh, it was fun. Like in expanded has all sorts of tools, right? You have Max Elixir. You have the patch or the saucer. I don't know why they call it saucer. I hate that they call it saucer. But yeah, that's the short of it, right? I really liked that deck in expanded when it was good. Alternate formats, I'll hit a few of my favorites because there's so many of them and that I've done. For JIB format, I love Komo, the pre-nerf version. That deck was insane. Way too insane. If you're not familiar with that, just ask on the Discord for a while. You'll go, oh yeah, that was a bit much. Pre-nerf Komo for 345 format. I really love Phalanx, the Rapid Strike Phalanx deck. I think it's really fun. Um, Eternal. I don't know that I can pick an Eternal. Maybe Darkrai, but I haven't really built it yet, so I don't know if I can say for sure. Darkrai seems like a runner-up, or not a runner-up, a front runner for that name though. There's the thing with Eternals. There's just so many decks, and so many of them are so good and so interesting that it's very hard to pick. Like I'm having to choose, a couple of decks to build for that format, and it's like, oh, I want to build like these 30. And you have to pick, right? I can't build that many, especially not with that many old cards. But yeah, probably Darkrai for Eternal. Yeah. Okay. Marriott asks, if you could design a trainer card for Ash, what would it be? So I thought about this a little bit while I was putting this little PowerPoint thing together. My first thought was something along the lines of Red's challenge from Unbroken Bonds. And I thought, well, let's buff it up a bit because it's Ash, right? But it's got to be Pikachu related. So my thought was, okay, it's gonna be a supporter card. It'll be Ash's something. I don't know what, or maybe just Ash. Maybe just call it Ash. But it's like if you have a Pikachu in the active spot, you can search your deck for 2 cards. And then I thought, well, maybe that's just too good, or not. Maybe it's not good enough. I don't know. I think Pikachu has to be involved somewhere. Either maybe it ends your turn if you don't have Pikachu in the active spot, but then that's just too easy to use. I don't know. Something along those lines. So if Pikachu's in the active spot, then you can search for 2 cards. And it is a supporter, so it, uses that for turn. Tandem says, where do you think you would be today without the website or with anything it has given to you? Well, that's a very complex question. And I probably won't get into everything just because it's so personal, but it is a good question. I would not be playing Pokemon anymore. Probably wouldn't even be involved in the Pokemon community. The biggest problem I had during that tag team era actually is I hated the game. I I tried my best to find decks that I liked or to do things that I enjoyed, and most of what I enjoyed during that time was helping people learn how to play. Um, Especially during COVID, which was just way worse. So you take a bad format and you put it all online with no human interaction, and you make that last for 2 years, and I hated it. Um, I absolutely detested it. I did not like I did not like the game at that point. Zacian ADP was running around everywhere, just kind of destroying everything in terms of the decks that I most enjoyed playing, which were like the single prizers. Bad decks like Lost March that were fun to play even though they didn't always win. Um, I just it was a rough part of the game for me. And I think if I didn't have, especially my Discord community, I would have left. I would have just found something else to do and probably would have never come back, which is really awful. I think back on how much I love the community, like all my moderators, right? Um, some of the really big people on my Discord, people that aren't even super active anymore, people like Bunnybird, King Carp, people that have been twitchy, people who've been around for forever. They've been part of the alternate format tournaments. They've been part of the Discord when it went from a couple hundred people to being huge, and they've been active or mostly active the whole time, and they've been joining in and everything. It's crazy. It's honestly insane. Um, yeah, I honestly I don't know where I'd be. Maybe I'd have found some other community that I would have enjoyed. Maybe Minecraft. I like Minecraft, although my Pokemon is pretty much completely taken me out of that. I just don't have time for it anymore. But um, yeah, I don't know. That's the best answer I have. Is I don't really know, but it wouldn't be in the game because during COVID, during that rough era of the TCG, that's when I worked on the alternate formats the most. That's when I had those alternate format tournaments. That's when we just enjoyed playing the game in a way that wasn't standard. It wasn't the tag teams dominating everything format. We were playing Popper, we were playing Theme Pool, we were playing, this is before 345. We're playing, just playing these fun formats off the side that we could enjoy and that were not standard. I think that was the most important thing, was finding a way to enjoy the Pokemon trading card game that was not the standard format, and or expanded, because expanded was worse, if anything. There was a time for a while where expanded was actually the less toxic of the formats, but it didn't last. It never does. The Pokemon doesn't keep up with the expanded ban list well enough. Next question is from 9 Card TCG. A little bit of a joke question here. Who is the most handsome person you've ever collaborated with, and why is it 9 Card? We're gonna go with Steuben. Steuben, no, I'm just kidding. You guys are all great. I'm not gonna pick. It's probably Gazer. No, I've only collaborated really with 3 people, right? That's Steuben, Gazer, and 9 Card. So I can't really. There's not a big group of people to collaborate with. But yeah, you guys are all great. Like, I'm not gonna pick. Don't make me pick. Please don't make me pick. Please don't make me pick. Whimsicast asks, "What is your favorite color?" And this is an interesting question. I have a very specific answer to this. I have a picture, not picture, but a square of the color, because it's such a weird color for a lot of people. Nobody knows what Corsair is. The best way I can describe it is a dark teal. I like teal in general, but dark teal in specific, and Corsair, as it's commonly known throughout the textiles industry. Anyway, Corsair. That's the color. Dark teal. I Brevis Berry asks, "What's the best way to get back into the Pokemon trading card game as somebody who left competitive play in 2015 and had multiple failed attempts to start again? I can't go to any in-person stuff, and I've been trying to get better stuff on PTCGO for months." So, I have an answer for this, and you're maybe not wanting to hear it. Stop trying to play on PTCGO. Move to TCGL. As buggy as TCGL is, building decks on there is significantly easier. Especially if you're not trying to be free to play, TCGL is just an order of magnitude easier to build stuff on. Even if you are trying to be free to play, it is like they give you so much out of the gate just for signing in. Basically, you get Miraidon, like you basically have the entire Miraidon Regieleki deck for signing in. Absolutely try TCGL. Jump in on Limitless Online Tournament Platform Tournaments, the LOTP. That's a very easy way to find tournaments to join. Like, obviously you can't go in person, that's what you've said yourself, but definitely jump in on those. There's tons of tournaments constantly running for standard, for expanded. Obviously standard's gonna be the easiest to do because that's what TCGL supports right now. But absolutely try jumping on that. If you'd rather maybe not necessarily focus on standard, you can always work on my Discord server. We have alternate format tournaments once a month. GIB format for this month. We've had Eternal format quite a lot. I have run Eternal format tournaments several times a month usually. We have 2 this month. Eternal format's base set forward with a ban list, so it's kind of like unlimited but under control. Really interesting format there. We play that on tap. If you're on my Discord server, you go. There's basically always someone you can find to play with. So yeah, it's really what you want to make of the game, right? If you can't play, if you don't want to play online, you would rather play webcam. There's always GLC. There's usually a good following, especially on Andrew Mahone's Discord server, for people that were open to playing GLC and webcam. There's a lot of ways to jump into it. It's really what you want to get out of the play that you have. If you're not trying to be necessarily competitive, like trying to qualify for worlds, I think the best way is really the online tournament platform, limitless online tournament platform, in conjunction with Trading Card Game Live. TCGO is end of life, and I think it's time to let it go for most people. I think a lot of people have let it go at this point because Scarlet and Violet's only available on Live, but yeah, TCGO is just not the way to do it anymore. So moving onward, I think is the best option. Next question is, I'd love to hear about your process for updating things on your site, like the meta lists and stuff. I know you post some updates on Twitter, but I'm not sure if you've talked about your process before. That is a complex question. I'm going to pause this for just a second. I'll be right back, and I'll have some of the things I use to show, or to show some of the things that I do with it. All right, so this is the spreadsheet that I use to help put in information for the meta update. I use Excel for so much. There's 2 documents basically I use for everything. I use this one, and I use another one I'll show you here in a second. Basically, dump all the information in here, and then I go through this to this, change the dates to the range that is appropriate for the update that I'm doing, and then I have this baseline image for what the update is supposed to look like for this week, so that I can tweak it in my my final version. I'm working on a newer version of this that's a little bit better, that does the whole thing for me, so that and it'll also break it down into sub archetypes. Right now I don't have support for sub archetypes, so in the future it'll say like Lost Box Rayquaza, Lost Box Dragonite, stuff like where it breaks it down a little bit, like Single Strike Lugia, Rapid Strike Lugia, and it'll do the whole thing, but it'll also break it down. That's my goal in the future. It's taking a lot of time to make that work. It took a lot of time to make this work, and I don't like the way it looks, just imported directly from Excel, unfortunately. But it does work. That said, so I use this for the meta update. I copy this into the jump list or the website, paste that in, and it magically works, right? This is basically what I use for that. And this is, you can see here, like this is the raw data. These are the tournaments that were included in the data, the weighted and unweighted scores for all the different tournaments. I have all the data in the back, and I can go pretty far back. I can go back to like if I wanted to, I could go all the way back to like, let's say, like there. We'll go back that far. So then it would just say, okay, well, this is the data from that span. And so in that span, apparently Giratina is the best deck in that span. It's a pretty big span. I guess Giratina did fairly well for a while. But yeah, that's the gist of it, right? It works. It does the thing. It does it dynamically, and it helps me with the meta update. And then the other big one I have is this, and this is the deck builder that I use for pretty much everything I do deck building related. I have a sanitizer, so if I have a list, it's already like it already exists, like it's on Limitless or some other website. I can basically paste it in here, and it will clean it up for me so that it switches to specific card numbers, to like the latest versions of everything. So like this list, an example here, it is using an older version of the Switch numbering. It's using an older copy of Ultra Ball. It's using like the generic water and metal energies. So this thing is automatically switching it into the current versions of those things so that it's always up to date. It's always using more recent numbering. I can sanitize that, and it'll copy it to my clipboard, and I paste it into my website. And if it's not already on there, I can, let's image in. If it's not already there, I can go through here and I manually type everything in. So like this here is obviously a mu list that I had to type in manually. And this is the mu list that was there. So there's the list, right? and then I can actually see the image. And obviously this is dynamic too. So like, let's say, for example, we decided we didn't want to run 4 lost vacuum and we wanted to run 4 nest ball because we hate the deck. We can sort that, and it'll regenerate the image for me, so that it's always, I can get like an overview of it while I'm making sure that all the cards are right, and then I can copy the list to clipboard and do exactly the same thing that I did with the sanitizer. So whether the list already exists in text form or not, I have a way to create the deck list and import it to the website so that it's already ready for people to have access to. A lot of times, especially when the tournaments are first over, champions or people who top well, or top well who place well, they'll post their picture list online, and I can go through there and take all the card numbers and stuff out of that and dump it into here and then grab the list that way to make it so that it's available for everyone. That way, people can copy paste. Yeah, this is a huge help for me. I use this so much. In fact, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll actually recognize the way this looks, because this is how I generate deck lists, or well, the image deck lists for Instagram now. I used to do it in PowerPoint really manually, and it took forever to do the deck lists. But this way, it's much faster and much easier. I can literally click a button and then paste it into like GIMP, save it off, and I'm done. I could actually edit this so that it saves it in Excel itself, but not worth the effort. It works. This works perfectly fine. So yeah. All right. So up next we have Trey asking the very important questions. Pineapple on pizza? Yes. Absolutely yes. Especially with bacon and Canadian bacon or sausage. There's a local place here that offers a Hawaiian, basically. It's Canadian bacon and pineapple, but their sauce and their crust is just amazing. And for whatever reason, like, places have it and it's fine, it's good, wherever, but their Hawaiian in particular is just incredible. It's absolutely great. The sweet and salty combination is perfect. Gazerbeam 2K asks, "What's your ideal dream goal to take away from all of this?" Um, I don't know, to not have to work in retail anymore. That'd be great. I don't think that's gonna happen. I can't even monetize my YouTube site, my YouTube page yet. Even with 1,000 subscribers, I don't have quite enough watch hours to even try to monetize it. So I genuinely don't know. Maybe in a few years I'll be able to do that, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, to be honest. It would be really great though to get out of the retail space. I really do not like being in it. It was supposed to be a temporary thing, and between just life situations and COVID, it's become much more permanent than I would have liked. So yeah, that. Uh, but in the happier aspect, ideal situation would be my site becomes a place for new players, especially, to come and learn how to build their decks. At some point, I would like to do a web series on teaching someone to play the trading card game. Actually, I'm hoping I can get my mom to do it at some point. She's a lover, but she requires a lot of instructions, to put it nicely. And I think that would be very good for people who don't maybe have experience with trading card games to come in and learn the game, because she's going to ask the questions they're going to ask. She's going to ask okay, this is this thing. And for a lot of trading card game players or card game players in general, they're going to go, well, that's obvious. But for a lot of people, it's not. And for her, it probably won't be. So I think that would be a really good thing for a lot of players. Also, at some point, I want to do a kind of a series on deck 911. For a while, I was trying to do it as like a part of the website, but I found every time I started writing it up, it just never worked right. So I kind of want to do a deck 911 series, which is like a very basics of fixing your deck, right? Not every deck has to be a competitive deck, and some people just want their deck to work, so that when they play their deck on the kitchen table, it does what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to do it. And something like deck 911 is perfect for that, right? Because they can come in and they say, okay, well, X and Y isn't working in my deck. It's like, okay, well, let's look at X and Y and see what we can do to fix it. And deck 911 would be the idea behind that, right? To fix those. Other than that, I just I want people to like the site, right? It's a resource, and it's a big resource. It's one I use constantly. And I hope that other people will find joy in it too. You know, they'll find it useful. Yeah, that. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Is just I want to get out of retail, and I want the site to be useful, and it doesn't necessarily have to be exclusive. I mean, I think now a lot of people do find the site useful. Don't get me wrong. I've had people message me before and say, "Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your website helped me understand the game or helped me build a deck," and that's exactly what I want to hear. Right? As a Pokemon professor, I spent so much time teaching people how to build decks, people teaching people how to play the game. I mean, heck, the whole reason the website even exists is because I created a deck building guide for my local league. Like I posted it as a PDF on MediaFire couple years ago for a couple it's been a couple more than a couple years, like 4 years ago on Reddit now. And that became uh from somebody saying, hey, MediaFire doesn't work for me, to being, hey, this is a blog post with a PDF attached to it, to it going, hey, this isn't very mobile friendly, to actually becoming part of the website. And that was the seed for everything. So 5 years from now, will justinbasil.com be alive still? I sure hope so. Will it be useful still? I sure hope so. I hope people will really enjoy the website and will visit it and get all the stuff that they need from it, and that would be great. That's really what I want for everything. Trust Your Pilot asks, is it pronounced Basil or Basil? Yes, I can read that just fine. So this is a very interesting question, and I've answered this before to Bert's TCG, from formerly Hot Chalk, formerly Slowpoke. Well, I believe it was him who asked. Um, so originally it was just in Basil in my head, because I am a huge Anglophile. Was into Harry Potter very much as a child. Was all over the internet with Harry Potter this, Harry Potter that. Obviously, don't especially appreciate the author and the crap she's been pulling. I'm very upset with that about actually, but that's a whole other ball of wax I don't want to get into in this video. Um, but yeah, and so Basil, just mentally, that's how I pronounced it for the longest time. But I'm American, and everyone I interact with is American, at least locally. So they always say it Basil. So when they say, Justin Basil, Justin Basil, Justin Basil, they're sharing the website with their peers at League or whatever. It's like, oh, did you see all the stuff for the pre-release guide? Did you see all the stuff that's going to be in the Sword and Shield pre-release kits? Did you see all the stuff that's going to be in the Scarlet and Violet pre-release kits? Right there, that's they say Justin Basil. They don't say Justin Basil because that's not how they say it. So my answer to this question is say it the way you would say it in your local area. So if you're in an area that would say Basil, say Basil. If you're in an area that would say Basil, and that's perfectly fine. I said Basil for a very long time. Obviously, I say Basil now because I've gotten used to just everybody saying Basil. But as far as I'm concerned, it's however you say it. Abby asks, why basil instead of oregano? This is a fun one. I love basil as an herb. Actually, you were talking about that pizza place earlier. Um, their sauce has basil in it, and it's really obvious that it does. And it's almost like a drug because it's so good. I was talking to somebody at my league this weekend, and they're like, yeah, Hispanic people, we love our cilantro. We'll just cram tons and tons of cilantro into everything. But white people, man, you guys just love basil. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I don't know if that's true necessarily, but I do really love basil. And that's really what it comes down to, right? I love basil, and I like playing on words. So just in time obviously the different herb, but just in time, like the phrase just in time. And I swapped in the one I feel is the better herb, basil. So yeah, that's the short of it. It's basil because I love basil. And the whole leaf thing happened to kind of sort of work out too for the website. Obviously, I mean, it was originally a Reddit username. It wasn't actually intended to be anything specific. If you aren't aware, Justin is not my name. My Basil is not my name either. It's just in Basil, as in just in time. But yeah, it's because I like basil. I like it a lot. If I had enough, if I could, I need to grow a basil plant is what I need to do. Although I'm afraid my cats would just terrorize it. But yeah, that's the short of it. And with that, actually, we are out of questions for this Q&A. So I hope to have this up today, Wednesday. It's going to be a little later than usual. for a bonus video. I'm gonna have to render this, unfortunately. I had some issues with the cuts. But yes, I hope you will be able to enjoy this little Q&A. Again, thank you everyone for subscribing. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching all the videos that I've put out. Thank you for just being part of the community, for visiting the website, for sharing the website, for literally everything. You guys are awesome. I will see you in the next one.